If you've ever struggled with influence or persuasion, or maybe the thought of influencing and persuading other people makes you feel icky, but yet you know it's an important skill set to develop in your life, then sit down and stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 simple steps to becoming more influential and more persuasive. What's up, guys? My name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher in the field of human communication. So if you like learning about human communication, then go ahead and consider subscribing. So the very first tip that I want to share with you is what I call tactical empathy. So to simplify communication, at the heart of communication is really human psychology. And at the heart of human psychology are basic human needs. Well, there's a fundamental human need that lives within all of us, and that fundamental human need is the need to be understood. Most people just want to know that you understand where they're coming from. They want to be heard, they want to be valued, and most importantly, they want to feel like you understand them. And so it's important that when you communicate with people, you let them know that you understand them. And it's more than just saying, I understand you. It's actively listening to what they are saying to you so that you can reverberate, for lack of a better term, back to them what they said to you in a way that is almost clearer than they articulated it to you. You see, if you have the ability to really listen to someone's message and then articulate it back to them with such clarity and detail, that not only makes them feel like they were understood, but it makes them feel like you paid more attention to them than the average person does. Right? Think about that. If you were having a conversation with somebody and you explained something to them, and then that person said, you know what? I think I know what you're talking about. And then they reiterated what you said back to them in a way that was almost clearer and more concise than the way you explained it. How would that make you feel? It would make you feel like this person really understands you on a deep level. And when people feel like you understand them, the barriers and the resistance that usually comes into play when it comes to influence and persuading them goes down. You see, most people don't like the topics of influence and persuasion because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because they feel like they have to coerce people, or they got to be sleazy, or they got to be manipulative in order to persuade people to do things. But the reality is, true persuasion is when the person persuades themselves to take the action that you want them to take. And the way that you get them to do that is just by simply articulating that the decision is in their best interest for them to take or to make. And the way that you do that, the first step is really understanding where they're coming from. Because if you try to influence someone's behavior or thinking without them thinking that you truly understand them, they are going to feel like you are only doing this for your own gain and for your own reward, and that's usually where you deal with resistance. The next tip is mirroring. So mirroring is nothing more than when you do and you gesture the same way that your audience is gesturing. So you're communicating non-verbally the same way that they are. So in other words, if that person is leaning back in their chair, you want to lean back in your chair. If that person is leaning forward in their chair, you want to lean forward. If they are speaking at a fast rate, you want to speak at a fast rate. If they are exhibiting signs of frustration, you want to share in that frustration with them. Because when you don't, what happens is a disconnect takes place where that person once again feels like you don't understand them because you're operating on a different wavelength or a different frequency than they are. So if you walk into a room and you are dealing with somebody who's ultra frustrated because they just came dealt with a lousy driver, you want to communicate to them that you understand that people can be lousy drivers as well, and share your experiences with them, right? You want to mirror and match the emotional state that they are going through. Now, here's the thing. You're already doing this naturally with people that you are in rapport with. So if you pay close attention to the way you communicate with a really close friend, or somebody that you've known for a really long time, or somebody that you just connect with, you're going to notice that most of the time you guys are using similar words, you're speaking at a similar pace, you're using a similar tone, you're using a similar tonality, a similar volume, and the flow and the emotional feel of the conversation is usually in sync. You do this with people that you are naturally in rapport with. The key is to then be able to do it with people that you might not necessarily immediately be in rapport with, because you don't have that history and connection with them. So what you have to do is create that connection by matching their emotional state and by mirroring their body language. And then the last thing is what I like to call calibrated questions, which is just simply asking open-ended questions that get people talking specifically about certain things. So words like how or what are very powerful when you put them in questions. So if you were to say, well, what exactly is it that you're feeling right now? Or what exactly is it that's holding you back right now? Or what exactly is it that is making you feel uncomfortable? Or if you were to say, how could we make this work? That opens up the platform to have a deeper conversation, rather than just asking questions that result in a yes or no. So for example, words like does. If you use a word like does that work for you? What that does is it opens up the potential for the person to give you a yes or no answer, right? Because they're either going to say, yes, it works, or no, it doesn't work. So there's a time and a place to use a question like that. And that is when you've already built up enough rapport, you've said everything you need to say, they've said everything that they need to say, and now we are at the point where we're asking them to make a decision. That's when you use a word like does. But until you get to that point, you don't want to ask close-ended questions. You don't want to ask questions that could wind up giving you a yes or a no, because that's when the conversation could end. Instead, stick to questions that use words like how or what to keep the flow and conversation going seamlessly. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave me a comment, let me hear some feedback from you guys. And if you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing. And if you do, hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.